What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Switch Podcast. Man, I'm your host, Kewan Humphreys, and this is the very first episode of what I'm going to call the Swish-a-Thon. What is a Swish-a-Thon, you might ask? A Swish-a-Thon is going to be where I cover each and every NBA team before the NBA season starts. Today's date is currently August 20th. Now, the NBA season, I believe it starts mid-October. Preseason and training camp starts next month. So, I wanted to go ahead and get in and try to get a video on every single NBA team. Whatever your team is, whether they were the defending champion, the Boston Celtics, or whether they were the bottom of the league, the Washington Wizards, you are going to get a video from me over the next 2 months. Now, the order is dependent on, I would say, demand. I want to start out, as you can see, I got my Trae Young jersey on. I want to start out with my Atlanta Hawks because I want to go ahead and get them out of the way. And I've been itching to talk about the Hawks on this channel for a very long time. But sadly, we are not that good. So I don't have an opportunity to talk about them that often. But make sure to leave in your comments if you want your team to be, if you want a team specifically to be talked about sooner rather than later. Put them in the comment section. You know what I'm saying? I read the comments and I'm going to say, okay, they want to see the Warriors. They want to see the 76ers or the Mavericks. I'm going to go talk about them if that's what y'all want to hear. But if I don't get to your team as soon as you want, just be patient. I'm going to get to it eventually. We have a goal to get to 200 subscribers by the end of September. So roughly close to the end of this Swish-a-Thon, we want to be at 200 subscribers. And I feel like the best way to do that is to get as much content out to y'all as possible. Now, we're not going to waste no time. We're not going to waste no time. You see it. I got that ATLANTA on my chest. We're talking about them Atlanta Hawks. Now, last season, the Atlanta Hawks finished with a 36-46 record. They got eliminated in the play-in by the Chicago Bulls. But if you were not paying attention to the Hawks, you would not have known that they've dealt with a bunch of injuries last season. Of course, we know about Trae Young missed a lot of time after the All-Star break. Jalen Johnson missed 26 games. DeAndre Hunter missed 25 games. Onyeka Okongwu missed 25 games. And even through all those injuries, Sadiq Bey was playing really well. But he ended up tearing his ACL and he ended up missing a significant time. And in this NBA, in this league, there really is no way to stay, I would say, successful. To be successful in this league, if you have a bunch of your really rotation guys that are heavy in your rotation, missing a lot of playing time, missing a significant amount of games. But it wasn't all bad for the Hawks. It was not all bad for the Hawks because there was one shining star through all those injuries, and that man's name was DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray increased his play to 25.1 points per game, 9.1 assists per game, and 5.8 rebounds per game without Trae Young in the lineup. So, as you would guess, and as you probably know, whether you're a Hawks fan or not, if you're a Hawks fan, you know for a fact, you would think about this all season long. You was thinking, okay, Trae plays better without DeJounte, and DeJounte plays better without Trae. We missed the playoffs. Somebody has to go. And that was the biggest question mark going into the offseason for the Atlanta Hawks. Not even just the offseason, but especially around the trade. It started around the trade deadline. The trade deadline, the DeJounte Murray name was heavy in the trade market. And once he started playing and the Hawks fans and the Hawks organization started to see how good he really was, they said, okay, maybe we move on from Trae. So going into the offseason, there were a lot of question marks. Okay, who goes, Trae or DeJounte? And we know how that turned out. Moving forward to the offseason. Now, the offseason, I would say, was a very big offseason for the Atlanta Hawks for two reasons. Number one, the DeJounte Murray trade. And number two, the Hawks won the NBA draft lottery, which means they had the number one pick. They could do whatever they want with it. They decided to use the pick, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit later. But first, I want to talk about our moves in the offseason. Starting off with the DeJounte Murray trade. DeJounte Murray was traded to the New Orleans Pelicans for Larry Nance Jr., Dyson Daniels, Cody Zeller, and a 2025 first-round pick via the Los Angeles Lakers, and a 2027 first-round pick via the Milwaukee Bucks. That is not the only thing the Hawks did. The Hawks also traded away A.J. Griffin. He was a 16th pick. 16th pick? He was a 16th pick a couple years ago in the NBA draft. He had a really good rookie season, but as soon as Nate McMillan got fired and Quinn Snyder moved in, AJ Griffin kind of fell out of rotation and really did not play that much for the Atlanta Hawks over the past season and a half. They traded him to the Houston Rockets for rights to the number 44 draft pick in the 2024 draft, which they used on a Nikola Jurisic. I hope I said his name right, but Nikola Jurisic. They used him on that. They also signed David Roddy. If you're not familiar with David Roddy, he played with the Grizzlies originally, then played with the Suns last season. A big man. You know, he's not really the biggest, but he plays the four or maybe a very undersized 5 position. So the Hawks made moves. I like that. You know, I knew that we had to move either DeJounte or Trey to get some draft capital back, because the Atlanta Hawks do not own any draft picks, any of their first round draft picks for the next 3 years. So you had to make a move to get some first round draft picks, especially if you're not one of those contending teams that are competing for the Larry O'Brien Trophy every single season. And I think they did that. They get, you know, a 2025 pick via the Lakers, which could be good, it could be bad. And a 2027 pick via the Bucks. We don't know how good the Bucks are going to be in 2027, so I really cannot judge or criticize that move. But the Hawks did what they wanted. They got rid of, one of their stars and got back some assets and trade capital. But we move on to the NBA draft. Now the NBA draft, like I said, they won the first overall pick in the lottery. So with that, you have all the keys in your hands. You can keep the pick, you can trade the pick for a star, you can do whatever you want. But the issue with this year was this draft was not that strong. And with this draft not being that strong, people believe that I'm not going to trade one of my best players in the league for the number 1 pick if this guy's not going to be that great. You know, I think the way the NBA teams looked at this draft, they saw a bunch of guys that have a high ceiling, but they're probably going to come in and be role players. There weren't many players in this draft that you could say this is going to be my Paolo Banchero, my Anthony Edwards, my Wembanyama. You know what I'm saying? A guy that's going to take my team from the bottom to the top. They didn't see any of those players in this draft. So the Hawks decided to keep their pick, and they were looking at getting Alex Sarr, the 7-foot Frenchman from France. But there was a whole thing with Alex Sarr where he did not want to come to Atlanta. He did not do the workouts. He was not responding back to the front office. And it became apparent that he didn't want to be a part of the Atlanta Hawks. So the Hawks had a decision to make. We're going to pivot from Alex Sarr and move on to somebody else. Draft day came out. I remember I was sitting on the couch watching the draft. It came out and I think it was Woj. Woj said that the Hawks are looking at Zachary Richardson or Reed Shepherd from Kentucky. And I'm thinking Reed Shepherd, what? Like, we already have a 6'1" point guard. Why are we getting another 6'1" point guard along with that? But that did not matter because the Hawks ended up taking Zachary Richardson. Guy, I believe he's 6'10 Frenchman. He's a guy that shoots the 3-ball well. He shot the 3-ball well in France. He plays a very versatile defender. He can guard from the 1 through the 4 with his length and with his quickness and his speed. I think this is going to be a solid piece. You know, in the Summer League, he played 2 games. First game, he had 18 points. Second game, he had 11 points. Finished averaging 14.5 points per game on 39.5 field goal percentage. But the efficiency I don't really look at the efficiency that big because I think he's not going to have to take as much difficult shots as he did in the Summer League when you're playing alongside a playmaker like Trae Young. You're going to have a lot of open shots and a lot of easy opportunities to score. But we look at what we look at for next season. What are the Hawks going to look like next season? So before I dive into that, I want to look at the roster. I'm going to read out the roster. I got it right here. We have Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Richardson, Jalen Johnson, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter, Onyeka Okongwu, Larry Nance Jr., Vit Krejci, David Roddy, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Cody Zeller, Garrison Matthews, and Muhammad Gay. So looking at that roster, reading off that roster, you would say, this team sucks. You know, and I'm not going to lie. That is how I thought for a minute until I started doing research and preparing to drop this video, to make this video for y'all. I look at the roster and I say, okay, this is not a star-studded roster. You have Trae Young and you have a bunch of guys. Jalen Johnson's gonna be really good. I feel like last season was Jalen Johnson's not his coming out party, but that was a year we saw a lot of development and a lot of progress for him. I think this upcoming season is gonna be his coming out party. I think it's gonna be even better this year than he was last year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. But you look at the guys they added. You added Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels is a guy that is a good defender. He's great. He's a good defender. The free ball can get a lot better, but you look at him and the way he played in the Olympics, he played really well in the Olympics, and that gave me hope as a Hawks fan that he's going to bring that same play to Atlanta, because he's going to be probably the starting two guard. Unless they decide to start Bogey. But he'll probably be the starting two guard, and putting him beside Trae Young is going to be big because he's going to have to be that defensive stopper as far as the perimeter play. But we got Dyson Daniels. I also like having Bogey and potentially DeAndre off the bench, because those are two guys that, well, Bogey's a star. Bogey's a good player. I like Bogey. I like him ever since he's been a Hawk. He played really well in the Olympics. He played really well last year with the injuries to Trae and to the other guys. But DeAndre Hunter is not a guy I want starting on my team no more. He's not the best player. You know, he played decent when Trae was out, but I just don't know. He's been the same player to me since he's been drafted. Not saying he can't get better, but he's not necessarily that guy I want to be. I want to play heavy minutes every single night. Zachary Richardson, I just spoke on it. I think if he can I think defensively, that's ultimately what he's going to do day one. Day one, his defensive versatility is going to be a huge plus for the Atlanta Hawks, and I really like the move. I like the pickup. I'm not going to lie, I like the pickup. I wasn't with it draft night because I didn't know what we was going to do. But watching him play in the Summer League and watching him able to hit the three ball and watching him able to switch out on the guards and defend him on the perimeter, I like it. I like it. So, where do I have the Hawks finishing that season? I have us being back in the play-in. Because, yes, I just said all this good stuff about the roster, but barring injury, I don't believe we got any worse than the teams that were behind us, and I don't think we got any better than the teams that were in front of us. So I believe the Hawks are gonna be back in the play-in. But once you get to the play-in, anything can happen. You know, and prior to last year, the Atlanta Hawks were the best play-in team of all time. I stand on it. We were 3-0 in the play-in. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful coming into the season, because now we get to see Trae Young kind of back in his element. And I think the best thing to do with a guy like Trae Young is to not necessarily put top guys with him like a DeJounte Murray. You put guys that are going to fit around Trae Young. The Hawks made the Eastern Conference Finals in 2021 because they had guys that complemented Trae Young's game and made life easier for him. DeJounte Murray is not a bad player by no means. I think he was really good. I think the vision that management had him coming when he came in, they didn't get to see it, on the court. Because what I envisioned DeJounte being the point guard and Trae being more off ball, running around the court like Steph, you know what I'm saying? But I guess when you have a talent like Trae Young on the ball, a guy that can give you 30 and 10 on a nightly basis, he's going to be 25 and 10. He's going to be a 25 and 10 guy for the rest of his career. So I think when you have a guy that talented, you don't want to move him off the ball, and that's what we saw. So okay, if you don't want to move Trae off the ball, get some guys that can play around him, like a Dyson Daniels that can come in and defend and hit that corner three. A Zachary Richardson, who we are hoping and praying can come in and defend and hit an open three. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Johnson, he's gonna be a secondary playmaker for this team. We saw it last season. There are times when Jalen Johnson gets that ball off the glass on a rebound and goes to coast, and he either finishes himself or he finds an open finisher or open shooter. But we do have a couple of question marks as far as contracts. And when I say a couple, I mean exactly two. Starting off with Clint Capella. Clint Capella is on an expiring contract. And the thing with Clint Capella is he's a guy that has a market. Now, you wouldn't think he has a market, but teams are asking around for this guy because he's a good guy. He's one of the top rebounding leaders every single year. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't make that much money. I think we're only paying him like $11 to $12 million this season. But he's an aspiring contract. So I would say, Hawks, you got to get off that contract. Don't let him just walk out the door. Trade him and get something back. You know, Double O, I believe Double O is ready to be a starter now. He's played really good over the past couple of seasons. I said last year he missed a lot of time, but in the time he played, he was really well. He played really well. He's been really good ever since he's put on a Hawks uniform. Second contract I want to look at, DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter is making over $21 million each season for the next 3 seasons. I just told y'all I don't want him in my starting line no more. And I'm not gonna lie, with the money he's making, I don't want him on my team anymore. He don't gotta be here anymore. So through all that, I think the Hawks gotta find a way to move that contract, because that is taking money out of potential deals that you could make with other players. And that brings me to how I think the Hawks are going to be able to improve this roster. They have to do it in the draft, and they have to do it in the trade market, because for some odd reason, it might be my point guard that wears number 11. I got a jersey on. People don't want to come to Atlanta to play basketball. And with that being the case, you cannot try and hold out to have a big splash in free agency, because that big splash is not going to come. So you have to be able to you got to take risks. And I know they took a risk with DeJounte Murray, but we have to take risks now, because now you don't have that much value in your draft picks. They got a draft pick this upcoming season, and they have a draft pick in 2027. But you don't have your own draft pick, so you cannot afford to just be in the bottom of the league. You're gonna be losing for no reason. So I think we definitely could see some more moves from the Hawks. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think we're going to see some more moves. Maybe not before the season starts. Hopefully not before the season starts, because I don't drop this video and I don't want to have to go in and update stuff. But definitely before the end of the season, we're going to see some moves. And it may be, you know, depending how bad or good the season is, it may be getting off of Trae Young and getting a haul back for him and going full-on rebuild. Because I don't think the Hawks are rebuilding. I think the Hawks are retooling. I think the Hawks are doing a soft rebuild. You keep your star player, but you move another star player to get some assets and some things to build around that player that you're going to have as a nucleus of your team, that is Trae Young. So, yeah, man. That's all I got for y'all today, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Share with y'all folks, man. Episode 1 of the Swish-a-Thon. Yeah. Put in the comment section who y'all want to see next. Until next time, we out of here. Yeah!